All right. Good morning. Good day. We're all over the world today. So for some people it's in the evening. Other people it's very, very early. But I'm honored to be here. I also have the pleasure of being my name is Lars Light. I am the um, VP of Education for the Somm Journal and Tasting Panel Magazine. And I would like to welcome everyone here, first of all, to virtual SommCon, and second of all, to the very first of our Somm Journal's Geographical Digest Wine Education webinar series. This is done in partnership with the National Geographic, who is the publisher of the new Sotheby's Wine Encyclopedia. Very exciting book that we're going to speak a little bit about today. And for the first time in our webinar series programs, you have the opportunity to purchase wines through Bottle Tribe. We've modified that process a little bit. If you've tried to do that earlier, it's been a little bit more streamlined. So please do go to sommjournal.com to register for our future webinars and to also see about purchasing those wines, which you can purchase beforehand to taste with the panelists or even afterwards to enjoy again if you liked them the first time and liked hearing about them. And with that, I have the pleasure also of introducing Meredith May, our publisher and editor-in-chief of the Somm Journal. Hello, Meredith. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here and thrilled to be partnered with National Geographic and Sotheby's new wine encyclopedia launch, which happens next month. So welcome everybody and good luck to all our presenters, and thank you for joining us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor. So this theme today is unique regions of the world. We're going to be in the Douro, we're going to be in Rheingau, Loire, Soltis in Sardinia, Paso Robles, Napa Valley, Milloway. You're going to have to correct me on that one, Christian, later, and Mclaren Vale. So we're really taking a wonderful virtual trip around the globe today. And somebody who knows a little bit about that is Dr. Orzi St. Karai, who is the editor of the new Sotheby's Wine Encyclopedia. She's Hungarian-born, based in London. She has been a sommelier, judge ambassador at the International Wine Challenge, head of tasting for the app What Wine. She's a candidate for MW and MS. And as if that's not enough, she's also an attorney specializing in the protection of origins and denominations. So that's quite a handful of tasks to do, very important, and I think it uniquely qualifies you to have a greeting for us. Orsi, please say hello.
Hey Lars, and thank you very much for the intro. I'm very excited to be here and yeah, to listen to all of our wonderful producers who will be talking about their unique regions. So yeah, that's right. The new Sotheby's Wine Encyclopedia is due out in just about a month, and we are extremely excited because there's been a lot of changes in the last few years since the last edition came out, and I have to say that we've got some amazing new maps for people who want to learn about these wonderful special regions that are completely redrawn by National Geographic, and we've got some amazing contributors who have rewritten a number of the region's texts who are going to be mentioned during this webinar. So yeah, it's.
I understand you even found some new regions new unique regions to talk about as well. What are some of those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we extended the encyclopedia even further, and as of new, we will be talking about wines in the Central America and Caribbean area, and believe it or not, Northern Europe. The climate change has reached those cooler regions, and right now, you know, the marginal areas are becoming very exciting new places where wonderful wines are coming from. So I think our wine world is changing quite fast, but nevertheless, it's always great to hear from the producers why they think that that their their region, the home of their wines is so special because they know that terroir best.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to read the book. And I've got good news too, something exciting that Orsi and Meredith have put together. So the first 15 people who are listening in right now would write a short essay on what they got out of this webinar, help you pay attention a little bit more. I don't think it's going to be very hard. And how you might use that in the trade with your customers and your work. If you do that, write a nice essay, send it to me, Lars, L-A-R-S, Lars at somjournal.com. The first 15 of you will get a free copy of the New Sotheby's Wine Encyclopedia. That's pretty cool. It's going to be, also you're going to be able to read about this experience, this webinar in the December-January issue of the Som Journal. There'll be recaps, and a recording of this webinar will be available on the SomCon website, somconusa.com, as well as somjournal.com. So you have, it's not quite an open book. I'm going to say you need to get this information to me by Monday. How about that? Does that sound fair, Meredith? Good. They can take the weekend. They can review the video, but they don't get to read what we write in the Som Journal yet about it. So great. I think it's time to jump right in. And I'm going to start in the Douro with George Rosas. George is the great-grandson of the founder of Ramos Pinto. So he's 5th generation. He's lived in France, Belgium, UK, representing his brand, and now he is the CEO of Ramos Pinto. He's also on the Port Wine Brotherhood, which sounds like a great brotherhood to be in. But he's not going to be speaking about port today as we know it. He's going to be presenting something very unique from his unique region. So George, please tell us what makes the Douro unique and what has Ramos Pinto done to contribute to that region?
Well, thank you, Lars. Thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to talk about Ramos Pinto and the uniqueness of the Douro Valley. I'll try to show you, I have here a small PowerPoint presentation. I would start by saying that the Douro Valley is probably the most beautiful wine district in the world. I know that this is a bit polemic, but we receive people from all over the world, and many people tell us this. So I want to show you some pictures about our properties. This is our Quinta. Quinta is an estate in Portugal, the equivalent of Chateau or Domaine in France. And this is our Quinta de Bom Retiro. The first vineyard here was planted in 1789. As you can see, it's very hilly. This is a picture took with a drone. And this is a vineyard. Actually, these terraces are dry stone terraces. They are 250-year-olds. There are more than 30 different grape varieties here, and the vines here are 100-year-old. This is another Quinta, Quinta Del Vamore. It's located in the eastern part of the valley. It's not far from the Spanish border. We have here 150 hectares, so you can have an idea of the region. So the port is the oldest demarcated, or the oldest appellation in the world, actually. An appellation has 3 main pillars. I like to say it's DLR, delimitation, legislation, and regulation. So we were not the first ones to draw a line in a map and saying, this is our appellation, because Chianti or Tokai did that before us. But an appellation is more than drawing a map, a line in a map. There is also legislation and regulation. And this legislation defines how and where port is made. And the regulation obviously is a rigorous control by a state body that controls the quality of our wines. So there are actually 3 sub-regions. It's the largest area of mountain viticulture in the Douro, in the world, sorry. And the soils are mainly schist, slate in English. We have, as you saw, these vineyards are planted in very, very steep slopes, and yields are very, very small. I would say that one of the characteristics of the Douro is the fact that we can produce wines that actually can age for many, many decades, both port and still wines, non-fortified wines from the Douro Valley. I think aging potential is probably one of the most important things in a great wine. I think I'd like to also tell you about Ramos Pinto has contributed a lot to the region, to the appellation, because we in the Douro have approximately 115 different grape varieties. And at Ramos Pinto, we made a scientific study that was published in the early 80s. And we have selected 5 grape varieties. These 5 grape varieties are today used by all the grape growers in the Douro, both for port and for still wines or non-fortified wines. These grape varieties are 100% indigenous, autochthonous. They are Touriga Nacional, Touriga Francesa, also known as Touriga Franca, Tinta Roriz, Barroca, and Tinto Cão. We also have many different white grape varieties. These 3 for us are the main important ones: Rabigato, Arinto, and Viozinho. And it's with these grapes that we produce our Duas Quintas White, which is this wine. And it's made from grapes coming from 2 different estates, with 2 different altitudes, with 2 different types of soils. So Erva Moira is our biggest estate, our biggest quinta. We have 150 hectares there, and it's about 200 meters high in altitude. So it's quite low altitude. It's a quite dry and hot climate. So this is Erva Moira with schist soil. And then we use, we have another quinta at 600 meters high with a granite soil, and granite gives natural freshness, natural acidity to the wine. So basically Duas Quintas means 2 estates. It's a blend from 2 different estates. One brings the volume, the fattiness to the wine, and Bons Aires gives the freshness and the minerality to the wine, the acidity also.
It's a beautiful wine, George. It's got beautiful minerality, refreshing crispness. It really is beautiful bodied. Very, very nice.
Thank you. Well, many people are surprised because they think the Douro Valley is, well, we are at south of Europe. We are extreme southeast of Europe. And the Douro Valley is a quite hot climate. And many people are very surprised to see this freshness, this very good acidity that is basically by this type of soils and this altitude. Also, you mentioned that it was my great-grandfather who founded the company in the late 19th century. So this is Quinta de Bom Retiro, the house where I spent my childhood with my parents. Well, I was born and raised in Porto, but I have spent a significant amount of time in the Douro, and I used to go to Bom Retiro almost every weekend and during summer. So this is where I spent my my childhood in this garden, playing in the middle of the barrels and the harvest.
Those barrels are like family to you.
I'm sorry?
Those barrels must be like family to you.
Well, I like to say that I have port in my veins, in my DNA.
It's great.
There's also something that I would like to tell many people. We are talking about climate change and this new opportunity to make wines in Northern European countries. Many people ask us about the possibility of you know, of the increasing of the heat will probably a dilemma for us. But the fact is that our grapes, our indigenous grapes, are very resistant to the heat. They have very thick skins, and so they for thousands of years they were used to the strong heats. So I think this is and we at Ramos Pinto are tending to plant more in altitude to have cooler climates. So we have been around for 140 years, and we hope that we'll be around for 140 years more.
Fantastic. What do you see as some of the challenges in the future for the region, for Douro?
Well, I think climate change is certainly one of them. The lack of water. Fortunately, you have a big river in the middle of our wine district. But some vines are, especially the ones who are in altitude, are far from the river. So this is an issue, how can we bring water to irrigate vineyards in the dry climate of the Douro. You have to think that the Douro is probably one of the driest climates, if not the driest in Europe. So actually at Ramos Pinto, we do irrigate in the more eastern part of the valley, which is the driest part. But we irrigate for hydric stress control. The idea is to control the level of stress in the vineyard and not necessarily to increase yields.
Fast question on the Duas Quintas. How far inland is that from the ocean?
In a straight line, it will be about 150 kilometers.
Okay, so pretty well inland. And what is remind me again of the altitude?
It's so 2 quintas, 2 estates. One is 200 meters high, and the other one is 600 meters high.
Oh, wow. Okay. Beautiful high level. You can really taste that schist in there, the minerality. Beautiful wines. Well, thank you, George, very much.
Thank you, Lars.
Well stated. So next, we're going to go up to Germany and visit with Stefan Doktor, who is the estate manager, managing director of an estate that makes textbook Rieslings. Stefan was born in Slovakia, worked in the hotel industry, worked in cruise lines, and he's been at Schloss Johannesburg since 2008. You're doing some fascinating things there. I'm interested in this idea that you're actually growing your own estate barrels using wood from oaks on the estate. But of course, really tell us about what makes the Rheingau so unique and the contributions of a historic estate like Schloss Johannesburg.
Perfect. Hello to everybody. I hope, I'm not sure, can you see my presentation on your screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. I try to follow the possibilities of the techniques.
There you go.
Here we go. Okay, I try to put it better. So you see, that's the German technique, but no, not a problem. I will just follow on this way. So, good morning for Germany. Let's talk about Riesling, and let's talk about cool climate, and let's talk about the first and oldest Riesling producer in the world, Schloss Johannesburg. Yes, there's probably not much other wine regions in the world which had such concentration on one grape variety only, like in the Rheingau. 80% of all grape varieties in our region are Riesling, and there is a good reason for that. And the reason is the absolutely cool climate what we have in our region. If you have a look on this land card, then you see the Europe, the Germany is lying very northern, just compared to Sicily or Greece. You see how northern is the Germany, and this line here is the 50-degree latitude north, and this line is running through our vineyard and through our region. That's the absolutely northern border for the possibility to make high quality of the wine. And
Stefan, we're still seeing your first page. We're not seeing the lawn cart. We're not seeing the map.
Okay, that's something wrong with my presentation. I'm really sorry about it. I can understand what's happened.
If you like,
maybe
I can share it.
Pardon?
If you like, I can share it.
Okay, do it. Let's go.
Great. I'm going to ask you to stop sharing.
Okay. Yes.
And I get to prove my German efficiency now, or try it out anyway.
Okay.
And let's see.
Okay.
I should be
perfect.
sharing.
Just switch on the second.
Yep.
Okay. And there is exactly. So. Okay, and now you see the land card of the Germany with the position of Germany in the northern, and as well the line which runs through the Germany and through the vineyards, which is the 50-degree latitude north, and this is the absolutely northern border for making quality of the wine. And this line runs through our vineyards. So this is very important for Riesling, for a grape, because there are two most important key points for Riesling in the northern region. The first one is the absolutely cold nights, which are slowing down the ripening process for the Riesling. And that's what Riesling like, because Riesling as a grape variety is the slowly one, it's not the fast one. So needs a lot of time to develop all its aroma and flavor and the ripeness level. And the second point is the length of the daylight. If you can switch on the next picture, please.
Absolutely.
That shows very good how many daylights need Riesling to reach these golden colored berries. So if you imagine that in this northernest position, we have sun which is coming out early in the morning at 5 o'clock and is going down at 10 o'clock in the evening. There's a lot of sunshine hours, and that's what really Riesling prefer to get all its potential and develop all its power. So switch to the next picture, please. And with this picture, I will just like to show you the unique terroir of our winery Schloss Johannesburg, which is situated on the top of the hill. And you probably can feel the thermic, what's happening in a region like this. The Rhine River on the left side is south, on the southerly part. That means the cold air is coming from the north, from the forest, and it's meeting up to the warmth from the river in the middle of the vineyards. And the thermics makes these different plots inside one vineyard. And so we are able, inside only one vineyard, produce many different phases of one grape variety. Please be so kind, Lars, and switch on the next one.
Whoops.
One before, please. Exactly. And here I would like to show you what makes Castle Johannesburg unique. We have only one single vineyard. That means we are making on a very natural way limitation of the production. And within one vineyard, we have only one single grape varieties and are able to show many different phases of only one wine. I was talking about the climate. Let's talk a little bit about the soil. If you look at the stones here on the beginning of the hill, this is a taunus quartz. It's a special kind of quartz. It's a stone which can save the heat from the daily sun very good, and is protect the vineyards during the cold nights and spreading out the temperature. And on the top is a loamy part with a lot of iron dioxide. So when we have a rainy weather, the whole hill is red painted. So inside of this one hill and on different plots are different microclimate. And within this microclimate, we are able to make wines from absolutely bone dry and light up to the noble, sweet, and very rich. If you will be so kind and switch for the next picture, I will show you something what is very typical for only for Schloss Johannesburg. Because of one single vineyard and one grape variety, we are using since 200 years a unique color system to sign the quality levels of our wines. It was based by Prince Metternich, who decided 1820 to use this color system so that you can, within the colors, go a little bit better through the quality steps of our wines. If you are looking a little bit more back in the history, Schloss Johannesburg is one of the oldest German wineries. The oldest written document about winemaking is from year 817 from Ludwig the Pius, the French emperor. And since 720, we are using only Riesling for production of the wine. That's why we are the oldest Riesling producer of the world. So that's the view back in some 100 years. I would like to explain you a little bit about our wine philosophy on the example of our wines. The first wine in the tasting, because I have two today, is a Riesling Silberlack, means silver color, is the one here in this middle part. Silberlack is the GG, means the Grand Cru from our vineyards. Lars, will you be so kind and switch to slides back? Back.
Got it? Oh, two back. Okay.
Okay. Okay. And one more. Okay. One more, please.
Working on it. There we go.
Thank you. This wine is coming from the southwestern part of the vineyards, the coldest one, and that's what we are looking for in such region like we have. The coldest part is the slowliest one, and these grapes are growing very, very late. So at the last one we are harvesting. And if you now switch to the last slide from my presentation, you will see the wooden bottle, which was you talking about, because this bottle is produced from our forest. We have approximately 300 hectares of forest, quite near to Castle Johannesburg. So the oaks are growing under similar condition like the grapes in the vineyards. And that's the way of traditional way of winemaking, means natural yeast, natural fermentation only. The wine spends approximately 6 months in this barrel and is coming out very pure, very fresh, showing a lot of complexity in the Riesling. That's what we are really looking for. I get citrus fruits. Yeah.
I get some beautiful citrus notes on that.
That's absolutely typical for Riesling, and that's what we try to build up in the wine within all the yellow fruits like peaches and apricots. Even we are working with wood. I think you are not really able to feel the touch of the wood. It's like a slightly kiss of the oak. There is a hint malolactic fermentation as well, which makes the one a little bit more rounder. But what makes the difference to Riesling, which was produced, I think, I'd say 20 years ago, these wines are bone dry. So we are at an absolutely low level of rational sugar. It's at 2.7 gram. It's like nothing. And absolutely fresh acidity, which makes the wine very long taste, intense of the palate, and with very nice bow of minerality tension. Why I would like to show two wines because, how I told you, within one vineyard and one grape variety, there is a possibility to play and build a different style of the wines. And the other one will be the Spätlese, the late harvest with the green seal. And that really interesting thing is if you compare these two wines, they are harvested on the same days, on the same ripeness level. You are just working on quite other way in the production. That means you take only stainless tank and you stop the fermentation in the point when you see this wine is absolutely perfect balance for the taste you are looking for. But the uniqueness of the wine is the taste, and even the sweet wines are not the modern wine in the world. This wine shows much more like on sweetness only. If you taste the wine, and that's the beauty of a wine like this, the sweetness you feel within first second, but you need to be patient to feel acidity and a lot of the freshness which is coming with 10-15 seconds later, and then aftertaste you forgot all the sweetness and the acidity. Clean your palate from the sugar, and the aftertaste is absolutely fresh.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The sweetness is more of, I would say, a ripe fruit sweetness. Ripe apricots, really beautiful.
Exactly. It's a lot of exotic fruits. I feel sweet citrus like oranges and mandarins, a lot of floral notes. But what I'm really appreciate is the freshness and the juiciness and a high portion of acidity because of this cool climate condition.
Beautiful. Thank you, Stefan. That was great. I said textbook. I have to tell you, I think these are the gold standard. They're beautiful Rieslings. Compliments.
Thank you very
much.
much.
So moving right along, we're going to just shift a little bit to the Western Europe and go to France, to the Loire, with Juliette Montmousseau, who is the CEO of Bouvet La Dubé. She's also fifth generation. She managed exports in the US, UK, India, Netherlands, Belgium, Japan, China, Scandinavia, and she's been CEO since 2015. And we're thrilled to have you here. So tell us a little bit about the Samoa region of the Loire, what makes it unique, and how it's so well suited for the beautiful sparkling wines you're making there. Juliette.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for including Bouvet La Dubé and the Loire Valley in this great webinar. And it's also a treat to travel from our own places through so many countries and wine regions. So we've been now with the Douro River and the Rhine River. Now you're moving back west to the Loire Valley and to Saumur. So I will share my screen to show you a picture of Saumur so that you have a sense of where we are. You have it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So here we are in Saumur. So Bouvet La Dubé winery was founded in 1851 by Etienne Bouvet, who's with me tonight. That's why I have his statue here. And his wife Célestine La Dubé. So it started with a love story between the two of them. And they created this sparkling wine house. My family took over this house in the 30s. So since then we are taking care of Bouvet La Dubé. And originally my family Montmousseau, had another winery in Touraine called the Montmousseau. And so we're making sparkling wines in Loire Valley since 1886. And so this is Saumur, located right on the Loire, and the smallest picture or painting here is the first maybe snapshot or picture of Saumur from the 15th century, showing the vineyards nearby the castle. So another map, because we need these geographic elements tonight to understand how unique our regions are. So we are very close to the ocean. You see Saumur here, right in the heart of Loire Valley. We are 2 hours from the seaside and from oysters and so on. And what is so specific about Saumur and the Anjou, the greater Anjou area, and to Tours is, and the Loire Valley in general, though it's the longest and widest wine region in France, the Loire River itself is 1,000 kilometers long, but the wine region on the Loire, it's 500 kilometers, so it's really diverse. And what's specific about our climate is that it's quite mild, although of course, as we have already mentioned tonight with the warmer climate change, it has an impact on our wines. Back in maybe 40, 50 years ago, the wines was added more sugar to elevate the level of alcohol. Nowadays, it's not necessary anymore. So this chaptalisation that was used to be done is not done anymore. So mild climate, and the soil is mainly chalk, limestone, and argile, clay, which seals in the moisture in the soil. And so it's a lot of limestone. So you see, we call it also in the Loire the pearl of Anjou, because it really shines on the Loire. And I will take you now in the cellar. We have at Bouvela-du-Bay, we have 8 kilometers of underground galleries, which were all dug from the Middle Ages and more in the 18th, 19th century. So it's a huge network of galleries. In Saumur itself, which is a rather small city, there is 1,000 kilometers of underground galleries that were dug to build the castles and homes. And above this high hill of limestone grow the vineyards. And so what happens in the Loire is that we've discussed that there is also this clay. So the vineyards never have hydric stress because they can always dig in this high hill of limestone and the clay that seals in the moisture to nurture themselves. So that's one of the key points of Loire, enabling freshness and minerality. And so vineyards also started to be planted in 11th century, also with communities alongside the Loire. So that's a good example of Parnay nearby Saumur. And so maybe Lars, you wanted to.
Absolutely. I'm tasting your Rosé Excellence. It's a beautiful wine. There's a creaminess to it. I have a couple of questions about it. First of all, going back to those caves, the limestone caves, the tuffeau, as you call them. I know that in certain regions, for example, in the Frascati area, they say that aging their white wines in bottle and in barrel, but also in bottle, in those tufa caves imparts some flavor and some characteristics as well. Do you find the same thing? Do you feel the same thing for your wines aging in those caves?
Yes, because it's what's very good about them is that it's they are dark and it's the same temperature throughout the year, 13 degrees Celsius. So that's this stability that is great for winemaking. And yeah, coming back to the terroir, so Cabernet Franc in the Loire Valley that we have for this the Bouvet Rosé Excellence is, as you know, the main red grape for Loire Reds. It came more in the 18th century and 19th century and was really largely produced we used to have more Gamay in the Loire. It's not anymore the case. So it's really Cabernet Franc that is used for rosé production still and the reds. And the rosé sparkling production is fairly recent. It was, I would say it has really grown in the past 20 years or so. Prior to that, it was mainly white sparkling wine production. So all our wines are produced under the méthode traditionnelle, formerly known as méthode champenoise, from our cousins in Champagne, which has similar, as you can notice, soil with the limestone, though Champagne is much more continental in terms of climate. And Cabernet Franc for us, at Bouvela-du-Bay, we use Cabernet Franc only for the rosé winemaking. It's often used in the area in the white blends, but our signature is that we use Chenin, the king grape of Loire, Chenin, and we use Chardonnay for our white blends. We work in Blanc de Blanc style, and we use Cabernet Franc only to make rosé because we think it's perfect as a rosé. You really have this, the idea is to have this cracking fruit almost, as if you were biting in the grape.
Yeah, you definitely get some of that spice of the Cabernet. It's typical for Cabernet Franc as well. It's surprising. And is this 100% Cabernet Franc?
It is, yes.
That's fascinating. And you have
many different places. Sorry.
It's okay. And you said you have, but you in the past you also have vinified Cabernet Franc in Blanc, in white. Vinified
Yes.
in white. Wow.
It's often the case here in the area, but what we love about the Cabernet is that fruitiness, and it really comes out in the rosé, and you can pair it with a lot of different spicy foods as well with that.
Yeah.
Element.
Yeah. Beautiful fruitiness. Now, let me ask you a question about the denomination or the nomenclature. Would you be able to call this a Cremant?
No, it's under méthode traditionnelle.
Ah.
We are also producing Crémant de Loire appellation and Saumur Brut appellation. So these are our three main categories. So this wine is under méthode traditionnelle. With no geographical designation, though all the juice comes from Loire Valley. There's actually something I wanted to tell you on the bottle. You see it's written produce of France, and on some sparklers made in France, it's written produced in France.
Ah.
There's a difference. If it's produced of France, the juice is from France, and it could be from different region. In this case, it's only from Loire Valley. If it's produced in France, the juice can come from our friends in Italy or in Spain. It was decided by Europe to enable trade also between wine countries. And here, it's traditional method, and just 9 months on the lease, which is the minimum for traditional method, and enabling a nice price point. Then for our Saumur and Crémant de Loire, it's a little bit higher.
Okay, it was fantastic. I can imagine. I don't see Orsi, but I imagine the attorney in her is shaking her head about the denomination rules and the maiden that you were speaking of. Those are very important things that mean a lot, especially in Europe, and I think we're starting to take those seriously in the U.S. as well. But thank you.
Right. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliette. Beautifully done. Beautiful wine. Absolutely gorgeous sparkler. Great body, great character. So now we're going to go over to Sardinia. I'm going to ask you, Juliette, if you can stop sharing. Great. We're going to go to the island of Sardinia and the southwestern part called Sulcis. We have two gentlemen there with us. We have Salvatore, who is a Sardinian native, Salvatore Santos. He came from a winemaking family in Sardinia. He sowed his wild oats as a travel consultant in London, and then started leading some tours to Tuscany and his native Sardinia as well. In 2009, he returned to Sardinia to join Punica, and he's also a member of the Italian Sommelier Association. And with him is Giorgio Marone, who is a native of Torino. There's always seems to be a Piedmont connection to Sardinia, because the origins of the Kingdom of Italy were that the kings of Piedmont, the royal family of Piedmont, were also the royal family of Sardinia. So honoring that native, Giorgio, as a Torino native, was also a student and right-hand disciple of Giacomo Takis, one of the godfathers, one of the pioneers of Tuscan wines. And together, Takis was instrumental in founding Punica with Sant'Adi. So, boys, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you what makes the Sulcis region of Sardinia unique, and what is the role of Agricola Punica? Tell us about your mission, please. Prego.
Okay. Yes, Agripunica was set up in 2002 in the Sulcis sub-region of Sardinia, southwest Sardinia. Maybe I can share the video just to start showing you something. Let me see.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. It doesn't seem to be running. Anyway, I'm start anyway telling you.
Would you like me to run your PowerPoint?
Yes, then I will.
I don't think it's in the same order, but we'll try just the same.
Anyway, we have already talked briefly about the Agripunica, and basically was set up in 2002 by these, let's say, three founding fathers. One was Marquis Inciso della Rocchetta, the president and owner of Tenuta San Guido, producer of the famous wine.
Salvatore, I just need you to stop sharing.
Okay.
Sounds like something you'd never want to tell your children. Stop sharing.
Yeah. So this is the one you are sharing, right?
I don't have it up here. Oh, I am sharing. I'm sorry. Never mind. Can you see it?
Anyway, I was talking about the three founding fathers of Agripunica, Marquis Inciso della Rocchetta, owner of Sassicaia, and Antonello Piloni, president of Cantina Sant'Adi, and Giacomo Takis, arguably Italy's most famous winemaker. He was actually the one that made possible this match between Tenuta San Guido in Tuscany and the Cantina Sant'Adi in Sardinia, southwest Sardinia. The place where we are, it's, let's say, not too far from the coast. So we got the influence from the sea, from the breezes. And Giorgio will tell you a bit more later on about this. And also the soil is very important. And I want to mention, you know, what Giacomo Takis used to say, that over here, the intensity of the light was very, very important to, let's say, have the Carignano grape, the main red grape of the area, reaching their correct ripening. Nowadays, our company owns 70 hectares of vineyards, divided in two estates. One is called Barua, like the wine we are going to taste later on. And the other one is the Narcao estate, which is the biggest one. In the overall 70 hectares, we produce 3 wines, 2 reds and a white, and an overall production of 300,000 bottles. Okay, as the time is running late, I would pass the word, the talks to to Giorgio, our winemaker, who can explain us something more in depth about the area and the wines and the winemaking. Okay, thanks everyone for watching and for listening.
Hello. We come back to warmer areas. Okay, much more similar, I think, to probably Black Stallion or surely not to Stefan's Schloss Johannesburg. However, we are about 39 degrees north latitude. I think Napa is 38, about 38, something like that. We share, I think, the climate, Mediterranean climate. We can reach in winter temperatures below 0, 2 or 3 degrees Celsius below 0, a few nights, but very rarely. And in summer we can get 35 easily, and sometimes 40, 42. For the future, let's hope the desert won't catch up too early, because we are very close to Africa. And what about the soils? We have large different soils, because we had an origin, very old origin. Sardinia was the first land to be born, to emerge in Italy. The Alps hadn't yet risen. The Sulcis was the first part of Sardinia to emerge, about estimated 500 million years ago, in the center of the West Mediterranean Sea, together with Corsica. And that means we have, for sure, a soil sedimentary, becoming from sedimentary rocks. You can find fossils here in Sant'Adi very easily. Then we had very different phenomena, volcanic ones. We had the compressions of the crust, so schists, as before said, probably different those ones. And also we had erosion phenomena, alluvial phenomena, after in these millions of years. So we have here in Sulcis all of them. We can find all of them. In the end, we find, so we can find limestone, we can find schist, we can find pebbles for alluvial phenomena, and sandy soils due both to water, alluvials, and for aeolic sands, more closer to the sea. And we have in Agripunica 2 places, Narcao and Barua. Narcao is more richer clay, and that's important because there we grow most of the Cabernet and Merlot we use in our blend Barua. And the other part that is in Narcao is much more sandy, and there we have planted Carignan. Something about Carignan, you know, this variety is considered a bulk wine variety in many regions of Europe. Here we have in the southwestern part of Sardinia, this specific place, area, Sulcis, I think the only Carignan that can, I don't know if in Europe, in Italy, sure, for sure, that can be used for aging wine. We have, when Carignan was cultivated in Africa, Northern Africa, it's still cultivated. Many European wine production areas bought wines to blend until the law permitted it. Then after these countries became independent, the only one place where they could get this kind of Carignan, whose use were not for to give color or alcohol, but to make certain rough tannins or green tannins softer and sweeter, and give a sort of fleshiness, of fullness. But what can I say? We don't have, I don't know if you can see the image, this grape, this one. Can you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna come off of share screen so you can share that, because we're coming to the end of your time anyway.
Okay.
But no, show us the grape bunch. That's Carignano, as we call it.
Yes, yes, this is Carignan, but not vigorous, just growing on sands with a hot climate, very dry. So we have a big concentration. Then, as Giacomo Takis brought us this sort of what we can say in Tuscany, he used to say Sangiovese needed a lover. He transposed that to Sulcis and brought us as well the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Merlot, just to add some aging ability to the Carignan and also some complexity.
Okay.
And the use of wood, with the use of wood, you obtain this kind of blend.
So what is the percentage of Carignano in the Barrois?
85%.
Beautiful.
Then we have some Cabernet Sauvignon, about 10%, and 5% Merlot.
It's got beautiful structure. This is definitely a world-class wine. Great broad shoulders. Beautiful wine. Okay. So Giorgio, I have to thank you there. We have to keep moving along. I would love to hear these things all day. Well, great stories, great points, but we have a limited amount of time. So I'd like to, so Salvatore, if you can go off share, and I'm going to introduce Steve Peck, who is Director of Winemaking at J. Loire. Steve's a California native. I love the fact that you started, Steve, as a home winemaker as well. Went into chemical and fermentation science, worked in the biotech industry, but followed your heart back to wine, which is wonderful. So tell us, please, talk to us a little bit about Paso Robles as a unique region well-suited for Cabernet and what J. Loire has done to highlight that.
Yeah, good morning, Lars. It's just, thank you for getting such a great panel of experts together. You know, gosh, we've been to Portugal, Germany. I got to visit Sardinia last summer and visited a winery there. You know, I'm a big fan of the Loire Valley. I see we have a handful of Californians on the call from the chat room. Shout out to Matt from Pismo Beach, which is really kind of my home turf here from Paso Robles. So I guess maybe I'll go ahead and do my screen share if I can, and kind of read through this. What a great chance to share our flagship wine here at 10 a.m. here in California. trying to go into presentation mode and get that going for you. We're going to talk a little bit about Paso Robles and specifically one vineyard that J. Loire owns. Was planted just in 1999. You know, J. Loire was founded in 1972, so we're pretty soon here we'll be celebrating 50 years in business. But and the original plantings were in the cooler Monterey area, just north of Paso Robles. For those who don't know, Paso Robles is located roughly halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles. So, you know, where most of the identity of California wine growing is really north of San Francisco. We are the other guys. We're again south of San Francisco. And the wine in particular that I'm going to talk about today was really a vision that was set out by our founder, Jerry Loire. Jerry's his birthday was on January 1st, I believe in 1936. He'll be 84 this coming New Year's Day. And the wine that we are featuring and tasting today is called our signature Cabernet Sauvignon. And it was really Jerry's vision to really create a single wine from our label, from our vineyards that really could sit alongside some of the best wines in the world. We clearly have a strong position in the U.S. For wines in broad distribution. I really appreciated the comment about essentially the very arcane language of produce in France. In the U.S., we have these production statements are very important to us, and I just it gives me a lot of pride in the J. Loire brand to know that every bottle of J. Loire that you might even find in a supermarket, if you flip around on the back side, it's going to say produced and bottled by J. Loire Vineyards and Wines, which is really a challenge for a wine brand that's over 1.5 million cases. So for Europeans, that would be, you know, close to 20 million bottles of wine is the size of our brand. And again, it's really a wine, you know, kind of a grower producer model where we have over 3,000 acres of vineyards in total.
Wow.
That we farm ourselves. The vineyard I'm talking about today is it's called the Beck Vineyard. Kind of typical of the Paso Robles region. It's calcareous soils, so you know, high pH, pH 8, a lot of iron chlorosis issues. You see the white soils there in that trench and the young planted vines. A lot of fossils. So you know, we're in our valley is an elevated seabed, just off the coast of the Pacific Ocean here. This kind of gives you a view of the proximity of this particular vineyard to the Pacific Ocean, and there's our friend in Pismo Beach right there, and again about 20 miles inland up over the Santa Lucia mountain range that separates the coast from the Paso Robles wine region. Is our vineyard here. This is a map that is produced by our local, you know, wine marketing, our wine region collective. We've kind of added a layer to it. The appellation is the largest appellation in California, over 600,000 acres, and in 2014 it was divided into 11 sub-AVAs. There's some layers in this particular map that shows all the vineyards above 1,500 foot elevation, and this is one of those vineyards. It represents only 5% of the acreage, of the planted acreage in Paso Robles. And our particular vineyard is in the southern end, in this area called the Creston District. Okay. J-Lore also has the westernmost vineyard clear over here in the appellation as well. So here's just a kind of a little model sort of showing how the cool air finds its way to this particular property. And again, just kind of speaking to our overall wine brand, over 2,600 acres here in Paso Robles that our company is farming and headed by Mr. Jerry Loire. And just 50 miles north of us in Monterey, there's another over 1,000 acres there where we're growing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. I'll talk a little bit about the winemaking of this wine and a little bit about the blend. Of course, we're in California, so there's a little bit of technology involved. We've actually, this is a picture of the berry sorting equipment we were used in the vintage that this wine was produced. It's an air classification type system where we're able to remove the underripe and overripe fruit. In these hotter regions, I don't know if the other winemakers on the panel that are working in warm regions suffer from this, but we want to move the average ripeness up very high, but there's what that'll mean is some of the most exposed berries might begin to shrivel. And the way I kind of look at our berry classification system is it's a way to move the average ripeness higher, but remove out those few berries that might start to shrivel and give port, or baked flavors or high alcohol, and really bring down the quality of the blend. We're doing this in open top tanks, and we feel like one of our competencies really revolves around our use of blender varieties. So this particular wine, it's 80% Cabernet Sauvignon, and we've really had success with this clone and rootstock combination, clone 337, the Ontov clone with the 110R rootstock really excels in our area. And I've kind of highlighted some of the four blender varieties, Cabernet Franc, where we really are looking for sort of bringing in that freshness, a little herbal character. I'll talk a little bit more about Saint-Macaire. This large berried variety brings density and sort of a roasted fruit quality. And of course, people are more familiar with Petit Verdot and Malbec and how they can bring structure, and in the case of Malbec, really bring this bright, perfumey fruit character to the wine. As I said, Saint-Macaire, at least in California, is not very well known. Most wine professionals can name 5 Bordeaux varieties. There's always some smarty pants in the room that can name number 6, which would be Carmenere. But one thing I learned from the people that formed the Meritage Society in California, Northern California, back in the 80s, is that they went back to the 1855 Declaration of Bordeaux, and they found that there were actually 8 varieties listed, the 6 I mentioned, and number 7 being Gros Verdot as opposed to Petit Verdot. And number 8 was this variety Saint-Macaire. It is a large clustered variety, and therefore it's not very well suited to, let's just say, a wet climate where you might have summer rains or post-veraison rainfall, which we don't really have an issue with here in California. So we're generally don't get our first rainfall until the month of November, well after the crop has been harvested. For those that are in California, I reference a couple of other producers in California, O'Shaughnessy and Hannah, who I know, and there may be others out there now that are starting to discover this relatively obscure variety. I lifted this little information off of the On Top INRA website, and it just kind of shows, some of the phenological and agronomic characters of the variety. You can see it's a large, tight clustered variety. So if you get any rainfall prior to harvest, you're going to have difficulty with mold and so on. And the planted hectares, it looked like it was a pretty popular grape in the 1950s, but it's down to 1/10 of a hectare in its country of origin. So with that, I just want to say we're really dedicated to Cabernet Sauvignon here at J. Loire, and it's just a privilege to share this, I guess, top of our portfolio with you.
Thanks, Steve. That was great. I'm glad you went into some detail with the Saint-Macaire. I had some questions about that, which you answered. Very, very cool. Very unique. So thank you very much. Beautiful wine too. Great, deep, rich fruit flavor. Really enjoying that.
Yeah, it really serves our house style, which I would say is really dense but soft. We were kind of early adopters of phenolic profiling of our wines, and so we're very interested in having really dark pigmented wines that translate to very rich on the attack, and but that are soft on the finish, and so we all recognize, as our opening speaker mentioned, that ageability is really a measure of quality. But I guess our house style really, we feel like our wines really do age well, but they are, we are really have an eye towards, gleaning as much pigment out of the fruit as we can, but keeping the tannins and the astringency kind of in moderation, that we feel really gives us a rich, very approachable wine, even at something like this, which is $100 bottle of wine at the top of our portfolio.
Beautiful wine. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. We got to keep moving on here, and we're going to stick in California and speak a little bit with Ralph Holden, the winemaker for Black Stallion. Ralph, I don't know if you were feeling a little homesick. You're from the Rheinhessen when Stefan was talking about the Rhine wines. But I know that you also came from a winemaking family in Germany, and you had a lot of wonderful experience with small lot wines in Napa, and Black Stallion's one of them. So please talk to us about your unique region with Oak Knoll in Napa.
Yes, thank you, Lars, and it was great to listen to Stefan talk about the neighborhood I grew up in. So I spent a lot of time in the Rheingau myself, including studying there. But thank you for the introduction. I'm Ralph Holden, winemaker at Blackstone Estate Winery, Napa Valley. It's absolutely an honor to be here today and tell you more about Napa Valley, as it's such an incredible place to grow grapes. Today, I want to give you first a brief kind of overview of the world-class wine region, and then tell you more about Black Stallion Estate and how we and I'm approaching winemaking in Napa Valley. So let me start with where we are in the world. In this inlet map, you see California. We just heard from about J. Loire on the central coast. Now we moved up the coast to about an hour drive north of San Francisco. We'll find Napa Valley, northeast. On this map, you see the 16 sub-regions or AVAs within Napa Valley. Also indicated by the black horse in the Oak Knoll district. The southern end of the valley is Black Stallion Estate, where I am. Napa Valley was actually established as an American viticultural area, or AVA, in 1981, making it the first official wine growing region in California. It's also one of the smallest and most diverse wine growing regions in the world. The Napa Valley floor is all very small. It's about 30 miles long and narrow, being just about 5 miles across at its widest point. In fact, only 4% of California's wine grape harvest comes from Napa Valley. There's about 46,000 acres of vines in Napa. By contrast, Bordeaux has about 280,000 acres, or 6 times the size. I want to quickly talk about the maps, and this is kind of looks like an artistic chart, but it is a map that shows Napa Valley soil topography, and you can see how complex and diverse the terrain and the terroir of Napa Valley is. Napa Valley actually contains more than 100 soil variations, 33 soil series, and half of the world's soil orders. So extremely diverse from a soils perspective. And in addition to that diversity, it's also geographically very diverse. Most of the landscape we see today was created about 150 million years ago. And Napa Valley is flanked on both sides of the valley by mountain ranges. On the west side, we have the Mayacamas mountain range, and on the eastern side, the Vaca mountain range. These mountain ranges were formed by tectonic plate movements and volcanic activity, and then through the thousands of years, erosion and intermingling of this parent material has formed the diverse soil composition that we see today. Napa's topography also kind of defines the microclimates. The Mayacamas mountains on the western side blocks the cool maritime airflow from the cooler Pacific Ocean from coming in, and the opening of the valley in the south allows cool air and fog to flow through the San Pablo Bay up north. As a result, Napa Valley is cooler in the south, with an average daytime high in the summertime, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and warmer in the north, close to Calistoga, up around 95 degrees Fahrenheit as a daytime high. So it's multifaceted by soil, topography, and climate. And grapes are grown at many different parts in Napa. Farmed close to the sea level in the most southern area at Los Caneros, as well as in the hills and elevations up to 1,800 feet in Hell Mountain, for example. Overall, we talked earlier about Mediterranean climate, and the climate here is also classified as Mediterranean type of climate, which really is characterized by long, dry growing season with warm days and cool nights. And that's exactly the kind of weather you need to grow good grapes. It's found in just 2% of the world's surface. And here in Napa, another one of our most precious resources is the daily appearance of the marine fog. The fog flows in, as I mentioned, from the southern part of Napa Valley and at night, and it usually burns off the following day by midday. The fog's critical. It allows the grapes to ripen slowly and more evenly. The fog's responsible for cooling down the daytime high temperatures down at night to around 53 degrees Fahrenheit, creating that important swing from warm days to cool nights. It's so critical for us. So in summary, just quickly about the area. Napa Valley has a Mediterranean climate, which is found in just 2% of the world. There are 16 approved AVAs within Napa Valley. Napa Valley only grows about 4% of California's wine grape production. In addition, here's a top line look of the grapes grown in Napa. Cabernet, as you would expect, is a dominant grape variety with 24,000 acres planted, or 51% of all the acreage. Chardonnay, Merlot, Pinot Noir, and Sauvignon Blanc follow, but are much smaller. Overall, 34 different grape varieties are grown in Napa, about 79% red grapes and 21% white grapes. So now, after introducing Napa Valley a little bit, I want to talk also about how Black Stallion Estate Winery and we fit in. We're a small lot winery located in the Oak Knoll district of Napa Valley. Feel that we're in a good position to talk about the breadth and diversity of Napa Valley because we grow and source grapes from almost all of those Napa Valley AVAs I was talking about. Black Stallion Estate was once a site of the Silverado Horsemen's Center. kind of a well-known equestrian center in Napa Valley. Our name, Black Stallion, certainly pays tribute to the equestrian heritage. The winery is located in the southern end of the Silverado Trail on the east side of Napa Valley. And you know, what was once housed the historic indoor riding arena is now our tank and fermentation room.
Cool.
The Black Stallion Estate encompasses about 30 acres that stretch from the Silverado Trail all the way to the Napa Valley River. Here you can see some aerial footage as you arriving to Black Stallion through the entrance, view of our great horse statue and the hospitality center behind. Beautiful estate, and the historic equestrian center building right here, and then surrounded by our 16 acres of estate vineyard. Definitely beautiful place to make some beautiful wines. Black Stallion Estate is owned actually by the Indelicato family, who's been in the wine business in California since 1924. The family patriarch Gaspare Indelicato immigrated to the United States from Sicily, so back an Italian connection here as well, early in the centuries, and the family's been making wine in California for over 4 generations since. In fact, Stephen Matthews here on the far right in this picture is one of the 4th generation family members and has been working with me at Black Stallion and winemaking for the last 2 years. And for me as a winemaker, all of this diversity in terroir with a single valley, within a single valley, really means that it's crucial for me to preserve the distinctive character of the individual vineyards and micro terroirs that we source from. At Black Stallion, we're a small lot winery that's equipped for site-specific winemaking. That means that I keep each grape distinctive and keep it separate at the winery. Blind taste the wines and then blend them to achieve really a wine that's best expression of each varietal for Napa Valley in that vintage.
Ralph, I've got to give you a 1-minute warning.
All right, I'm almost there. Thank you. Our focus is clearly on Cabernet Sauvignon, as you expect in Napa Valley. We do make occasionally single vineyard Cabernets, but our flagship Cabernet is called Transcendent. It's always a multi-terroir blend made from the very best lots of the vintage. To me, layering the different vineyards characteristics in a single blend creates that perfect wine that I'm trying to achieve. With Transcendent, my goal is to make a wine that reflects Napa Valley's best Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's usually from the hillside vineyards around the Napa Valley. The wine I wanted to share, however, is our 2017 limited release Cabernet Sauvignon. I think this winery for us represents Napa Valley really to its fullest. It's made as a blend of some of the valley floor, showcasing more like fruit characteristic and like dark blackberry fruit that's really approachable, but it also has a blend component of some hillside vineyards in the blend that really contribute more weight and more tannins to the structure. So I hope you enjoyed that. And for those of you who have the wine, I know, Lois, you were tasting it already.
Absolutely, of course. It's after 1 o'clock here, so thank you. Beautiful
Yeah,
wine, great structure, great depth to the wine.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ralph.
So thanks for your if please come if you know the world is opening up again. Next time you're in Napa Valley, stop by at Black Stallion or visit us at blackstallionwinery.com, the website. So,
Fantastic. We'll be there. Thanks, Ralph. All right. So now we're going to shift to the Southern Hemisphere and speak with Cristian Vallejo down in Chile. He is the chief winemaker at Viña Vic. Christian has worked all over the world. He's native Chile, of course. He's worked in Spain, France. He's been in Saint-Emilion. He's been at Chateau Margaux. Returned to Chile to undertake an immense challenge of the Vic project. And Christian, I'm going to need your help with the pronunciation of the valley in Chile that you're in. Is it Milahue?
Hi, Lars. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here and an honor to be with you guys today. And it's Milahue. Milla means gold and Hue means place, the golden place. This is the way that the native people calls this place hundreds of years ago.
Fantastic.
So, thanks for that introduction. And well, let me explain you about this beautiful terroir where we are pioneers, the first ones in Chile working in this area, in this DO. We are in the Cachapo Valley, very, very close to the ocean. So when the family started with this dream and this idea to produce this world-class wine, they were trying to find a very special terroir. And they were trying to find it all over the world since then, and they found this spot. And so now I will show you a picture where we are. We are around 37 miles from the ocean. And you know that we have a beautiful wind that goes from the ocean to the continent in Chile. And the ocean here in the Pacific area that we are is really cold. It's about 10 degrees Celsius. That's about 45, 44 Fahrenheit. So this wind is really, really cold and goes into the land and into our property and refresh the area. So why the family, Alex Beck and Carrie Beck, they choose this terroir? So let me show you this picture now where we can have a view of this beautiful place, the golden place. And you can see here, it's 4,300 hectares. We have 6 valleys in the property. On the right side, you can see one of them. When I said valleys, we have hills around the vineyard and a creek in the middle. So we have 6 of them, and all of them are different. So the beautiful thing of this terroir and this DO, this place, is that we have 6 different valleys with 6 different microclimates with a lot of different soils. We have more than 32 different types of soils. And finally, what means this is that we have a lot of different flavors. So me and the team, we work, and me as a winemaker, the idea, our goal is to show that elegant part of this terroir with this complexity. So this wine that we have here already, it has been for 20 months in barrel, French oak, but no intervention. There are no addings, no filtrations, no finings, wild yeast, the yeast that come from our terroir. And because the idea is to show the flavor of our terroir. So something that I would like to show you now, it's something really important for this blend, which is 5 varieties, mainly Cabernet Sauvignon, 67%, 17% Carmener, which is a variety that is really the Chilean flag today with the Cabernet Sauvignon. We have 11% Merlot here, 4% Cabernet Franc, which is a variety that I love because it's really, really beautiful variety with a beautiful acidity, with a beautiful minerality, mainly in this place that I will show you, in one of the valleys that I will show you here, and 1% of Syrah. So there are 3 valleys that they have a very big influence of the ocean. So now I will show you a picture of this clouds going in during the summer at the beginning of the morning. And that shows a wave of clouds going in. So the wind goes in the same way. All these refresh the valley, and that gives me the chance to have a beautiful fruit-driven wine, very juicy, with a beautiful acidity that makes you watering, and beautiful tannins with tension, that they are alive, like vibrant, you know, like they're moving, but very soft. Because during the day we have around 28 degrees Celsius. During the night we have less than 10 degrees Celsius, so we have that variation. That cold nights help us to keep the freshness, the fruit. That the cold night help us to have that beautiful color, but the day help us to ripe the tannin. So one thing that I learned from my friends from France is that we are very aware to make wine in the vineyard and to save the flavor of each block in a separate way for the final blend. So after we choose this real beautiful terroir, now I will show you another valley which is more hot, that give us another style of wine, another wine that we have. This valley here that you can see, it's really special, and I'm showing you that because it's hot, a little bit hotter than 1 degree Celsius, but also we get the clay for our amphoras from there, which is one of the projects to show this terroir. And now let me show you our vineyard, which after all this analysis, all these studies that we do about our microclimate and about our soils, we work with 5 varieties and rootstocks. We are the only winery in Chile 100% using rootstock, even that we don't have phylloxera in Chile. It's just because we want to be very precise at the moment of the harvest. The other thing, as you can see there, we have a very high density like you have in Bordeaux, in Medoc, 10,000 plants per hectare. The idea is to produce very, very low yields. Why is that? A bottle per concentrate the flavor. I'm not talking about muscle wine. What I like is to have a very well-structured wine, linear, elegant, full of layers, full of flavors. And this helped me to really ripe the tannins very quick in the season or early in the season with a beautiful acidity, a beautiful, fresh, fruity aromas. And that makes this beautiful wine very juicy, approachable, easy to drink. What I say always, easy to read, because it's a story. In every glass change, every glass is a chapter, and every sip is a page. It's a wine that catches your attention and shows that this terroir. So we are, since 2007 when we start, I have to tell you that when I came here the first time with the family, there was just the property and nothing else. So with the team, we have been working since the beginning to plant the vineyard, to build this winery, to build the hotel, and now we can see the results in the wine. But during all this time, we have been working to show in the most pure way our terroir. I said that we have no interventions. I mean, no addings, no findings, no wild yeast. The only thing that we were using that is not from here is the barrels. So now we have 2 projects. One is barrels and terroir, that we have oaks in the top of our mountains. So we're using those oak to toast the barrels that they come from France. So now we have a little tannery in the winery, and we build barrels and we toast those barrels with our oak. So I will show you a picture of one of those oak lying on the floor. So we get that oak, we bring it to the winery, we use it to make the fire, as you can see. There you see a little pieces, and we use it for the fire. And when we have those little pieces and we use it for the fire toasts the oak. In that way, we are giving some natural Millahue flavor to the barrels. And the second one is what we call amphora. So we found a spot in the property where we have real clay that we can make our own amphoras. So you can see there how we dig very deep in the soil, like 8 to 10 meters deep. We get the clay, we build or we make the amphoras. Now you will see the amphoras, part of the process. And we make the amphoras, that's part of the process. You see, you grow 10 centimeters each day. It takes around a year to make it. It's handmade, handcraft. And now that micro-oxygenation that we get there, it's finished. It's around, the capacity is around 3 barrels. So now that micro-oxygenation that we have here, it's our own micro-oxygenation because it's from our clay, from our. So trying to show this beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon, really elegant, linear, very approachable, juicy, and the flavor of our terroir in the most elegant, pure way. So, so now, just I know that I'm very, very close to my time.
You there? You got a minute?
Yeah. So this is just the way that we're working now to be very, let's say, pure in our flavor. So with this beautiful terroir, so diverse, full of different flavors, full of layers of flavors with complexity, something elegant, and 100% our terroir, which is a new denomination in Chile, a new area, a new DO, Millahue. And before to finish, I would like to say thank you, Lars. Thank you to the Somm Journal, the National Geographic, Bottle Tribe, and Tastery. Thanks for this opportunity to be with you guys.
Thank you, Christian. That was
Cheers.
great. Talk about unique terroir and unique approach. And again, beautiful, beautiful wine, great structure, fantastic. Really enjoyed that. So now I think it almost seems like we need to give a trophy to our next winemaker, our next presenter, Richard Ango, who is the winemaker and joint managing director of Ango Family Winemakers, together with his sisters, also fifth generation. He studied business management, has a marketing focus, worked in his family winery a while back, worked in different regions, has a young family, is very passionate about sustainability, but most importantly right now, he's the man from tomorrow, because we've crossed the national date line in the Southern Hemisphere and going further out. So Richard, thank you. What is it about, is it going on about 2 a.m.? Richard, you're on mute. You're on mute. Somebody's got to get Richard.
How's that? It's about 3 a.m.
Great.
3 a.m. in the morning, and let's bring this webinar home with a bang.
Please tell us about Mclaren Vale and what you're doing at Ango.
No, thanks for having us here at the Sommelier Journal, the Somm Journal. Mclaren Vale is a fantastic place. I'll get to share my screen with a little presentation. And our business was started by my great-great-grandfather in 1886. He was a medical doctor, and like many doctors in Australia in those days, he had an interest in all sorts of things related to chemistry, and he planted grapes and started to make wine. And he soon realised that there was more money in selling wine than there was in the medical industry in the late 1800s, and that's how our business began. Here's a couple of really nice photos of the original cellars, which is just a barn in the side of the hill, which is about 40 kilometres from Mclaren Vale, and some old carts delivering grapes to the winery. Today, I'm very fortunate to work with my two sisters, Sophie and Victoria, who are on the screen there, and that's me in the middle. And my father, John, has recently retired. But I guess the main thing about our business is not necessarily is about the wider team around us, from the vineyard through to the winery, bottling, sales, marketing, and then our wider distribution partners around the world. And a brief shout out to our good friends at the Trinchero Family Estates, who import and distribute our wines in America. Here is and I know there's a delay on the photos, and a view of our Warboys vineyard with our cellar door right in the middle. I'll skip straight ahead to give you guys on the webinar a bit of a view of where Mclaren Vale is, because Australia is a very big country. We are right down in the south, South Australia, and South Australia is where most of Australia's grapes are grown. The nickname for our state is the wine state. And Mclaren Vale is a very small region to the south of Adelaide. It's planted to about 7,500 hectares of vineyard. And to put that in perspective, the Barossa Valley to the north of Adelaide is about 15,000 hectares. And I believe Burgundy is around 30,000 hectares. So it's quite a small region. And the Shiraz grape is about 60% of all the plantings. very unique part of the geography is that it is on the eastern side. It's bordered by the Mount Lofty Ranges, it's not a mountain range, it's more of a range of hills. And then on the western side, we have the Gulf of St. Vincent. So it's also a classic Mediterranean climate, very well suited to Grenache and Shiraz. Lovely warm days, cool nights, very low disease pressure in the growing season. So we get exceptionally good winter rainfall. And then in November, December, January, leading into the summer months, the rain comes off, and so it's a fantastic place to grow grapes. The wine, the 2017 Warboys Vineyard Shiraz, which we're featuring today, is grown. It's 100% single vineyard, and Lars, I think you've actually got a single vineyard focus coming up in one of your webinars in January. I saw, which should be good fun.
Absolutely.
But our Warboys Vineyard is the best vineyard that our company has under our own management, and it's dark, rich loam over calcitrate, so over a limestone chalky sort of soil, which you can see here. You can see that's actually an olive tree growing there, but you can see the dark loam is around about a foot. It varies between a foot, couple of inches to a couple of feet, but then you can see underneath it's this beautiful, well-drained calcitrate. Here's another look, and what that does is it acts as a sponge. So the vine gets its roots right into that chalky limestone, and it can pull the water out when it needs it, but not when it doesn't. So you get beautifully balanced vines. In the vineyard, our Shiraz vines are planted in the 1930s, so they're very old, lovely old vines, and they give us very low yields, small berries, small bunches, so you get a very good skin to juice ratio. You get a lot of very good colour because the polyphenol content is very high due to that skin to juice ratio, and you get lovely minerality, so wines that are going to age very well. Our vineyard is certified organic and biodynamic, so we use some it's really a holistic system of management in the vineyard. We're looking for biodiversity. We're looking for no artificial herbicides, pesticides, or fertilizers used in our grape growing. We do have a few issues. One of them is a snail problem in wintertime, and we can't go through and just sort of eradicate the snails by sprays, by chemical means. And so during winter and autumn, we run a herd of Indian runner ducks in the vineyard, and they do a fantastic job well, they basically come out of they have an overnight duck coop, which we call the duck mansion, and they come out in the morning, and they are extremely hungry, and they really do a fantastic job at controlling snails.
Escargot duck.
Yeah, that's right. So we're looking, obviously, we're always looking forward to how we can best improve our vineyard and prepare it for the 6th generation, which is there. That's my young daughter Ariel and my wife Tanya, and
They are.
Next year will be our 135th year of growing grapes and making wine in South Australia. So we're doing little things this year. We're doing things like planting trees because obviously we haven't been travelling very far, but we've just been spending a lot more time in the vineyard, which has been great. We planted 700 odd native trees a couple of weeks ago, just in time to get a bit of a drink during winter, and now we're coming into the summer season. But Mclaren Vale as a whole, I guess, is just a fantastic place to grow grapes, and it's a very unique climate. It delivers us it's so consistent year in, year out. So 19 out of 20 vintages in Mclaren Vale are very good. And the wines that come out of there, the Warboys Vineyard Shiraz, is very unique. It's very identifiable year in, year out, because it comes from the same very old Shiraz plot within the vineyard. And the style that we make it in, we really focus on soft, silky tannins, expressive fruit, really letting, not using a huge amount of new French oak. We're using 100% French oak, but only about 30% of that is new, because we want the fruit to come forward in the wine, and we want it to really show the vineyard and the season characters.
Richard, the name Warboys for the vineyard, what does that have to do with?
Yes, so that's it's my great-great-grandfather's best friend was from the town of Warboys, which is a very small village near Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And his first vintage in 1886, he made wine from his own vineyard and a vineyard owned by his best friend, who was from Warboys, and that vineyard was called the Warboys Vineyard. And those two vineyards were very close to the city of Adelaide, and today they're actually they no longer exist, because there's a supermarket and car park where they once grew those vines. And so to honour my great-great-grandfather's best friend, we took the history of where his vineyard was and the name of it, and brought it to our vineyard in Mclaren Vale to sort of honour the historic foundations of the business.
That's very cool. Yeah, listen,
And,
they could find ancient kings of England under parking lots these days. So it's nice that you carried on that legacy. Now, in the color of this wine, I mean, when we talk about I'm expecting a Shiraz, I'm expecting a deep, dark, opaque color. This has got a color that's almost a little bit more, if I just looked at it, I would say maybe it's a Pinot Noir. It's a much lighter color, beautiful elegance to the wine.
Absolutely. And 2017 was a cooler year. It was we had very good winter rainfall in 2016. And then 2017 was a long, mild, drawn-out ripening season. So the wines of 2017 are a little bit lighter than usual Mclaren Vale wines.
And what's the percentage? You're a Shiraz Grenache blend. What's the percentage of Grenache in there?
It's about 40% Grenache.
Okay. That must help with the color too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the Grenache adds a lovely sort of spectrum of spices and perfume and lift. The Shiraz gives its plums, texture, a little bit of that dark chocolate, but yeah, I love that blend. Yeah.
Finishes with a nice, almost tiny little spicy note too. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I don't know if your background is the sunset or the sunrise, but I know that hopefully you'll see the sunrise soon, or get some sleep through it.
No, I was thinking I might go to the gym or something a little bit. There's a 3:15, so I'll finish my glass of wine and hit the gym early.
None of the nightclubs are open in Adelaide?
No.
No, not with your wife and daughter home. Absolutely not. Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much for joining us in the wee hours by you. Thank everybody who's still listening for joining us in this extended version. I always am troubled by having to cut off these brilliant winemakers, these rock star team of winemakers that we had. Such great information. So thank you. Thank you to Nat Geo. Thank you to Sotheby's. Thank you, Meredith, from the Somm Journal.
Great webinar today. And again, this is recorded, so people can watch it again. And the recap story in the December issue of Somm Journal.
Absolutely. And don't forget to send your essays in, lars@sommjournal.com, and order your wine through sommjournal.com through the Bottle Tribe link. It'll be there. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of the day, rest of the morning, rest of the evening, whatever it may be. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Merit.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.